Good morning and welcome to the new edition of my live comments. Just about half an hour back, I saw a breaking news, and that is that the government of the United States is prohibiting Chinese from participating in the research in designated sectors, especially technology. No Chinese, until and unless he is a naturalized citizen of USA and has renounced his Chinese citizenship, or in case he is a refugee and has sought asylum in the United States, barring these two categories, no Chinese would be permitted to be engaged in any research where technology might be involved. And the fear is that the Chinese researchers are likely to steal the secrets and pass it on to China. Well, you might be amazed and you might be thinking that this is usually not done. But the reality is that China considers all its people anywhere in the globe to be the ambassadors. And the latest Chinese action when President Xi was anointed as a practical emperor for life, there has been a concentration of power and a further escalation to create an authoritarian world order which shall not only be, I repeat, which shall not only be political in character but economic as well. And before this action by President Trump, just 2 hours before that, Oxford Analytica, which is one of the world's most reputed global political and economic risk assessment company, released its report and warned the free world, saying that in China, trade is no longer an independent sector and it is permeated by the Communist Party of China. The party has been directed by President Xi to expand its cells operating in foreign companies doing business, and the Chinese company operating outside with the aim of overseeing and influencing their decisions. So if you do business in China, your local employees can very well be the cell members of Communist Party of China. And the report very clearly states that the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party, is reaffirming enterprise is not an independent sector. Till now, the private business has been regulated in China by the government, not by the party. But now, President Xi says it shall be the party which shall be controlling the trade, the commerce. And this directive is particularly felt by large companies, especially China's technology and communication giants, which are increasingly subject to the party influence and control. At the same time, the number of the parties is being embedded in the foreign countries, giving CCP greater capacity to know about and influence business decisions. And these cells are not allowing even seemingly very inconsequential matters to go unchallenged. For example, just about 2 weeks back, Marriott hotels were forced to make an abject apology after it launched an online consumer survey that just happened to mention Tibet and Taiwan as separate countries, and Taiwan is a separate country till today, until and unless it merges into China. Tibet was invaded and occupied by China in 1950. And CCP repeatedly says that the Chinese should invade Taiwan. But For the purpose of survey, when a hotel conducts a study and they mention that they are independent and separate from the mainland China, they are threatened and they have to apologize. The campaign by the CCP to take more effective control of economy is as an edict. An order was issued by President Xi through 205-member party central committee and the 25-member political bureau, who are the top of the power, the pinnacle of the power, and 7 members constitute the political bureau standing committee chaired by President Xi, and they are ensuring absolute observance of this order. The report of Oxford Analytica confirms that party role as a vanguard organization of all aspects of Chinese life, especially business, shall be under the close guidance and demands of the entrepreneurs would have to be patriotic. Now, coming to Canada, there have been a lot of sound and fury being created by the Prime Minister that they want a free trade with China, that they want China to come and do business here. If that thing happens, what happens to the Canadian economy? Already an intense debate is going about the state-controlled Chinese company that should have been allowed, according to these apologists, to invest in Canadian strategic economic and commercial sectors. And as a matter of fact, the Harper government had banned the Chinese-controlled enterprise of Canadian communication companies owning sensitive communication to take over the Canadian communication companies. But that ban, which was enforced by Harper, was overturned by the Liberals. The role of the private companies in Chinese economy has risen, and so has the governance of those companies under the party control. Now, last year, the major Canadian construction company, Econ, was purchased by the Chinese communication construction company. And at that time, I had clearly pointed out that by acquiring Econ, CCC, that the Chinese construction company, had bought 30% stake in the construction of British Columbia's massive Site C hydroelectric power scheme. Now imagine, can you, by any stretch of imagination, permit 30% equity in a major hydroelectric power station, which is essential ingredient of the infrastructure development? And then the decisions with 30%, you have a lot of the voting power, and those voting power is exercised by the representatives of the Communist Party of China. And naturally, their directive is to be patriotic, so the benefit, if any, should go to China, not to Canada. And at that time, Green Party leader Elizabeth May and the former Foreign Minister Peter MacKay, I sent my comments to both of them, and they took up and they told the Prime Minister that Oshawa should block the deal. MacKay very clearly objected to the profits of the business done in Canada by Chinese who are going to finance Chinese economy. May's worries were also the same, that she was saying that following Econ, they would have a dominant position in Canadian infrastructure construction industry, and a position would be given more power by the 2012 bilateral investment agreement. So both of them objected to it, but in its own wisdom, Liberal government refused to listen to them. According to many opinion polls, Canadians by and large are skeptical about the benefits of Canada giving a free trade to China. And that is now being contemplated by China and by Canada. If that happens, you can be sure it shall be the death knell of whatever is positive about the Canadian economic system. The move to expand the Communist Party of China and their move to expand and extend control on the foreign commerce only heightens the sense of caution that is needed here. Unfortunately, that sense of caution is missing at the federal decision-taking level. Suppose, take up a hypothetical case that in any organization, there are 3 or more Communist Party cell members. And then they encourage to form a party cell. And the party cell in an organization, according to Article 46 of the party charter, is to see that the party line, principle, and policies are implemented. Now take up this action of an ex-organization, say, taken over by the Chinese or set up by the Chinese, with the Chinese capital, everything. You have not invested a single penny. So it's 100% controlled by them. Long-term plans are made, approved by the government, and then they say, okay, let's start working on that. Halfway they stop the work officially, according to the management studies. So, causing disruption in all the plans and stopping work on one would have a domino effect on the others. So one construction or one infrastructure project stalled would ultimately mean more commuting time or more traveling time, more expenses, wider traffic, more congestion. So social, economic, political consequences would flow from there. If 3 members can do that, imagine if 100% members, because if it's a Chinese company, they can have 100% cell members there. What will happen to the country? Earlier, they didn't bother about the small companies for the simple reason they were too small. And the private entrepreneurs, still tainted with the old communist stigma, were not accepted. But that situation has changed now. China is an important member of WTO, and CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has allowed entrepreneurs to be members to increase the votes in any way. There is a pervasive corruption in China. Let's not deny that. People don't talk about it because of the closed economy and the bamboo curtain that is there. But that corruption, coupled with personal aggrandizement and the political affiliation and the direction of the party, can be really dangerous. Referring back to Oxford Analytica report released recently, only 3% of the private companies in China had party cells earlier. And now 70% have that. Since 2015, 3.6 million private enterprises have been established in various parts of the world by the Communist Party of China. And the existing companies are being transformed into the front organizations of the Communist Party of China. So your political system is at stake, your social system is at stake, your economic system is at stake. In 2002, there were party cells in 17% foreign companies. Today, 70% cells are there. And the exponential growth of the party cells and the members in the companies is a danger, a red signal. But would we heed it? Would our desire to adulate ourselves, praise ourselves as the champions of free trade, notwithstanding that this championship might be disastrous for the country. Would the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister think twice, at least take a lesson from President Trump's order in banning Chinese from working in technological ages, not to set up controlling those business organizations in the best interest of the country? This is high time that the government becomes more realistic. It tries to understand the hidden nuances of the actions of the various governments. Because we are naive enough, and I repeat, Canadian government, present government, is absolutely naive to believe that just being good would earn it laurels. Laurels they might earn by giving up the basic Canadian values. Is the game worth the price? Can we not for once think that the Canadian system, Canadian economy, which has stood the test of time, whether the governments have been conservative or whether the governments have been liberal, our financial system, our banking system, our business system has withstood the time and all the challenges. Why must we dilute those systems just for the sake of being in the vanguard of free trade? While we are aware that free trade is not fair trade, and what we actually need is a fair trade. It is up to the government now to decide whether they want to take up a road that leads to perdition, or they want to take up a road that can ultimately lead to letting Canada retain what it was. The decision is not hard to make. I dare the government to make the proper decision. Thank you.